הניסים ועל הברכן ועל הגבורות ועל התשועות ועל הנפלאות, על הניסים ועל הברכן ועל הגבורות ועל התשועות ועל הנפלאות שעשית לאבותינו בימים ההם בזמן הזה, בזמן הזה שעשית לאבותינו בימים ההם בזמן הזה.
Welcome to Jewish Life, a program presented in cooperation with the Jewish Community Relations Council of New York. I'm your host, Stewart Ain. Every week we present programs of particular interest to the Jewish community. Today my guests are Orna and Ronen Neutra of Plainview, Long Island. Their son, Omer, is one of the 133 people believed held captive by the Hamas terrorist organization in Gaza. And welcome to the program. I thank you for joining us. Yeah. What was your reaction when he said, I want to become a lone soldier?
So, just some family history, right? We're both grew up in Israel and we were both soldiers ourselves. And we moved here 25 years ago. Omer was born here, but the connection to Israel was very strong always. And he grew up in the Jewish community and visited Israel many times, and family was here. And when he graduated high school, he went through the All-American kind of track of college acceptances. So he was accepted to college, and as a family, we thought it would be a good idea before he would go to college to take a gap year in Israel. So for him, this was an opportunity to do something different. He said, I've been to Israel with school, I've been to Israel with you, with JNF. If I'm going to spend a year in Israel, I want to spend it with Israeli kids and get the Israeli experience. And
so he deferred Binghamton.
Yep. And we found a program for him with Israeli kids. And it's sort of, as you know, all Israeli kids have to enlist. It's something that you grow up with, that the country, you can't take it for granted, and you're required to serve in some way or the other. And so this was a leadership program, educational leadership program for Israeli kids before their army service. And it was very impactful. They travel around the country, they volunteer, they meet different parts of Israeli society, they have deep conversations about values and about the different issues that Israel is facing. They meet with leaders, they meet with army leaders, and he was very impacted by it, and he really developed a really deep connection to his peers. And at some point he felt that he might not want to come back immediately for college, that he needed to do his share in serving. And so he started joining seminars of Tzabar. I don't know if you're familiar with that. That's a lone soldier program where they kind of wrap them and help support them in the first year of their service. They're assigned a kibbutz and a family on a kibbutz that's kind of their adoptive family when they go home. Now, Omer has a very large family in Israel, but that's kind of the experience that you go through with your peers that are going through the same kind of path that you're going through. And at some point during that year, the program shut down. It was COVID. He came home for maybe 6 weeks over Passover, and he was talking about it a lot. He wasn't sure, and we felt that we didn't want to pressure him either way. It was a big decision to be made. So we helped him try to figure it out. And eventually he went back. The program reopened again. He went back for the end of the program, and he decided that he wanted to draft. That was his decision. We had mixed feelings. On one hand, we were proud of him and we understood where he was coming from and why he wanted to do it. But we also had concerns that, he was going to be very far away, that this could be risky, but no one could have imagined this scenario. So Yeah.
right? And I know his grandparents are Holocaust survivors.
That's true. On both sides, both of our fathers went through the Holocaust and lost big parts of their families in the Holocaust, and came to Israel fairly early on, and very Zionistic, and care about Israel a lot. And my father is still alive, and my parents having to go through this whole thing, and having a son that's
And grandchild.
sorry, a grandchild. Yeah. Being held by Hamas is really intolerable. They're very strong people, but it's just unfathomable. Really, it's like a bad nightmare that we can't wake up from.
How is Daniel, your other son? He's 20, right? He's 20. How's he handling it?
He's coping in his own way. He's a student in University of Illinois, and we pulled him a week after the event, brought him home. He's been studying from home. He took fewer courses this semester, but it keeps him busy and focused as well. But he travels with us back and forth to Israel, participates in rallies with us, and trying to cope with him with the situation his way.
So Daniel's enrolled in school, in college, and yet we see on many college campuses youngsters demonstrating against Israel, for Palestinians, river to the sea. They want to. How does he deal with it? How do you deal with it?
You have, a whole generation that gets their information from TikTok, 30-second videos. And obviously, this doesn't capture anything of what is really going on in the region and the real story of Israel. And it's very scary, that's where people get their news now. There's no room for nuance there. There's no room for facts. It's all very impressionable. And it's very scary how it's been taking over the whole conversation. Personally, I know for Daniel, he has not been in college. That was one of the reasons that he hasn't gone back yet. But I know that it's been very disappointing for him.
I'm sorry.
At some point, he spoke about it. We met with Senator Warren. He considered himself pretty liberal before all of this happened, and he said that he felt betrayed. He told her that he felt betrayed, by people that he thought shared the same kind of perspectives as him.
Right.
To some degree, it's we have a problem with Israel not telling the story loud and clear enough. And
Hasbara has been a big issue, the affair years,
That's right.
for years.
And also the United States not telling the story, and probably Iran and China are sponsoring some of the negative ads and videos in TikTok, and it's a real struggle to capture the attention of the young generation and to tell them the actual facts. They don't have them. They really get very little, and it's all coming from a huge amount of ignorance.
They don't care about the facts.
It's a struggle. On the other hand, I think the only good thing about it is that the Jewish community understands right now the severity of the problem, and that Israel is important for the Jewish people, and the Jewish diaspora is important for Israel, and that connection must be kept holy. And this somehow disconnection that happened between Israel and the Jewish people over the last few years has to be reversed. Those two communities need each other.
Yeah. I know you've said that you've had sometimes you have a very hopeful and then despair, and you swing back and forth. How do you deal with that?
We can't afford desperation, honestly. We just can't.
Rachel is saying hope
yeah.
is mandatory.
Rachel Goldberg, Poland. Hope is mandatory, and
like that.
we agree with her. If there is any despair, it's in seconds. You just can't. We can't afford that.
Yeah. Have you
Positive
found,
thinking.
have you
It's
found
not a
that,
Jewish concept either.
right? Have you found that people are awkward or uncomfortable around you, knowing, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and I understand that, especially if we haven't seen someone for a while.
Yes.
And
I think people don't know what to say.
yeah,
And many times here in the United States, we hear people coming to us and saying, "I'm so sorry." That's the American way of trying to support you. And in contrast, people in Israel come and say in Hebrew, "Tiyu chazakim," be strong. That's a little bit of a different angle, maybe on the positive side, and trying to empower you. But it's a cultural difference, and obviously we understand that people are trying to do their best, not knowing how to react in a situation like this. And we are embracing all the support we can get.
I think it's easier for people and for us if people really follow what we're doing. And we have very close friends here locally that are managing WhatsApp groups with over 2,000 people and keeping them informed with things on a daily basis, who we're speaking to, where we showed on the media, newspaper articles. And I feel that people that follow that or follow Omer's Instagram page that was set up, Bring Omer Home, it's easier for them and for me to communicate with them. So you don't have to start 6 months ago, where we've been, what we've been through. And then when you connect, you just be. And that's, I think, what's most important. Like we said before, people need to be active whether we're there or not. That's helpful to us. And just being with us, without words. There's really not a lot left to say at this point.
I was going to ask, how do you put people at ease?
How do we put people at ease?
Yeah, who are uncomfortable and they don't know what to say.
That's
We thank them for their support. There's not a lot to say.
No.
And
as Orna said, people should follow the Instagram page Bring Omer Home, and see all the activity that we do and all the events that we participate in, all other events that are available for them to join, whether it's on the island or in Manhattan. For example, there's a weekly demonstration in front of the UN General Secretary Guterres. We also met with him personally, just like we met with a lot of world leaders. I was personally in Doha, in Qatar. I met with the Prime Minister. And a lot of times meeting face to face with world leaders is different because it's different, a number or a name, than actually seeing the parents and hearing their story and understanding there's a real person behind it. And most people have kids there of their own, and they can understand by our experience how difficult it is and how urgent it is, and it kind of brings them into the event and requires action from them.
How did you find Secretary General Guterres? He's been criticized quite a bit for what he said and what he's done.
I think, there's a lot of politics, unfortunately, in the UN. But on a humanitarian level, he's been supportive of the release of the hostages. And he insisted that he's been supportive from the first day. And in our meeting with him, we felt he was sincere about that.
Yes.
In relation to Hamas and the different actual implications of what is said in the UN, right? How much real influence and impact do they have? It seems that not much.
The National Security Advisor at the UN is a
Council.
council, the National Security Council. is completely non-functional. And the fact of the matter is that they can't declare Hamas a terrorist organization, which everybody knows that it is,
So does
um,
Guterres.
including Guterres himself. But without that declaration, the UN cannot act against them. While somehow they managed to declare all kind of things against Israel all those years, including the one few weeks back. So it's a struggle. It's a struggle, and you got China and Russia and other big actors they have conflicts with the US, and it's all very political, and they got their own interest. And what we're trying to say everywhere we go, that the hostage issue is a humanitarian issue. It's not a political issue. And I think what many people don't understand, that among the hostages there are so many different religion and so many different nationalities. There are close to 20 different nationalities. There are multiple Muslim Arabs also hostages. It's not just the Jewish Israeli problem, it's a global problem. And what we're calling on world leaders to unite, to speak together, and to come up as a one voice, that this hostage situation must come to an end urgently, because it's the right thing.
And now Hamas is saying, I believe it today, it rejected the latest offer. But it's saying, when asked to come up with women and children and the elderly and those who are sick, we only can identify 27 of them. And they're not sure where the others are. When you hear that, what do you think?
Well, first of all, they are untrusty. You can't trust anything they say, right? So one bunch of liars. But it is true that they have very little points that the world can press. They're claiming all the time that the only time they will release the hostages will be when the war ends in Gaza. And they're not backing off of that. And Israel has a different intention. It says we have to eliminate Hamas, and they are not backing from eliminating Hamas, and they are now threatening going to Rafah. But in the midst of all of this, there are 133 hostages that haven't been released and are not being released. And Sinwar, sitting there surrounded by hostages as human shields, is just waiting, and he has time.
And where
Well,
do
we
you
don't.
stand on this? You stand with Israel on this? That they've got to be destroyed? You agree?
We believe that the hostages is an urgent issue. There are important issues and there are urgent issues.
That's
And we
number
need to
one.
deal with the urgent issues first.
Hamas has been in power for 15 years. It can stay in power another few months. But the hostages were taking out of their beds innocent people on October 7, and they're dying there. So we're trying to make sure everybody understands what's urgent and what's important and can be delayed until we bring the hostages back.
That's
We
critical.
obviously don't want Hamas to stay, but it can take years to eliminate all the little nests of Hamas around Gaza. The hostages don't have time.
That has to be the focus. That is, no matter what. And really, I think you're right. I think you're right. The community around you, I know that the posters that you've got there, bring them home now. Other homes in on your block have similar posters up. Are people bringing you food when you're home? How have they been helpful?
They've been very helpful. I think, people still ask, whatever you need, we want to do for you all the time. We haven't Stewart, we haven't been here a lot, honestly. You asking me home, I ask myself, where is home, right? We've been here back and forth in Israel a lot, and maybe 5 times in the past 6 months. We ended up renting an apartment in Israel as well, because we just need a place there when we land, and we hit the ground running when we're there. We hit the ground running when we're here. We come back here, we go to Washington. We've been to Washington 7 times. So we're really not here. And but when we are here and we get there, it's been an amazing community, really. Our local community has been really, 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 really great. You see pictures of Omer in different businesses and in front of people's homes, and people coming to these rallies. And if they're not at the rallies today, people were driving by and beeping all the time in support, and really doing a lot to make sure that the issue is not forgotten, and that Omer's not forgotten, and it's kept front and center. And our own rabbi at Midway Jewish Center in the community has been really amazing. He's been such an advocate for Omer and for all of the hostages. We don't take any of that for granted. We feel very lucky.
Yes.
Yeah, that's so.
Mhm.
What could people do? What would you like people to do?
So like we said before, I think personally, if you want to follow our story, if you want to follow Omer's story, follow us on Bring Omer Home on Instagram. Keep in touch on a regular basis with your representatives, with Congress. We've been told by the leaders we get attention and they are engaged and working on our behalf. But we've been told you have got to keep this in the news. You've got to keep on doing what you're doing, because as we all know, the events, that keep taking over the news. They just it's a cycle that you have to deal with. So we have to make sure that this is not lost. This is an election year. We know that the news is just going to get more and more intense on different fronts. And so, call the representatives, keep doing that on a regular basis, set a schedule for yourself once a week to make sure that you're doing that. Come to rallies, create your own events and rallies. Don't wait for someone else to do it. There's a fatigue here. New people should step up and help support, but we can't let it go. We can't. We have to keep it in the public sphere.
Pidyon Shvuyim, letting
Release of
release of hostages and prisoners is one of the highest Jewish values out there. And any Jewish person need to be supportive of this effort. Again, as a humanitarian issue, no matter what your political belief is, no matter what side of the aisle you stand, this is an area that everybody should unite behind and rally together. And it happened to us, our son, but it could be anybody's son or daughter down there.
What do you think the United States can do to get these 8 Americans out? What can the U.S. do?
So that's a very good question that we're struggling with, and we've been challenging the administration in our meetings. There are some directions that we're talking about that I like to keep between us and them. But basically, what we ask them is to use all leverages possible, whether it's Qatar, Egypt, and we also have seen Iran yesterday, basically telling we are in conflict with Israel directly and not with their proxies. That's the first time that it's actually been on the table, and that, as risky and difficult as it is, also opens opportunities both for negotiation, for pressure, and we expect the administration, as their main duty, to do everything, and I mean everything, in their power to release the American hostages. And through that, it may open the cork on this stuck bottle to release all the hostages as well.
The fact that when they talk about release of hostages, they talk about the women, they talk about and the soldiers are always last. Has anybody talked to you about the soldiers?
Yeah, I mean, right now the deals that they have been talking about are about the humanitarian release and then all the other men, including the soldiers that are on active duty. So, but that's not working. So we need to rethink. After 6 months, it's not working. So everyone needs to rethink what the next paradigm is and what's going to work.
When we meet with Israeli leaders, including the cabinet members, we remind them that the soldiers were sent to protect the Gaza border without enough forces, that basically on October 7, the army has failed with its intelligence, and our kids are victims of the situation. And as such, it's the highest responsibility of the government to bring back the soldiers and show the rest of the Israeli IDF soldiers that the government takes care of them, because they were sent by the government on their mission.
It's always been an ethos in the IDF that you never leave anyone behind, and it's true also for the state of Israel.
I keep on, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, and there's a big hole in Israeli society, and it's been a real damage to Israeli resilience.
We always say that the strength of Israel is not how many tanks Israel has and how many F-35 are flying up in the sky. Is the resilience of the Israeli people that is so important, and has been all those years the key to winning all the terrible neighbors that we have, and all they want is our destruction. But if this resilience means that people are taken from their house and are not brought back, or they are brought back dead, this resilience will be broken. And there are thousands and thousands of people in Israel worrying about that, demonstrating about that. There are huge demonstrations right now in Israel going on every Saturday night, and it's just going to grow. It's just going to grow. And unfortunately, a lot of it is also combined now with political outcry, because they think that the government is not capable. It's hard to blame the people after 6 months that are seeing no result, not to ask for them to resign, especially that they were in charge of the country on
And it
October
happened.
7th.
Yes.
So we understand that. But from our perspective, the most important thing is to negotiate, or any other way to bring them home, and then government can be, the country can go into election. This is a whole long process, and open a new page in Israel with hopefully better leadership. But again, our focus and our eye on the ball is the hostages, and the hostages only.
Right, right. Well, we're with you, and I thank you so much. And you are in the prayers, and we thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us.
And thank you.
Orna and
for-
Ronen
for-
Neutra, thank you very
Thank
much.
you for
Thank
being a
you,
voice.
and we wish all your viewers happiest and successful Leila Seder and Passover night, and we're hoping we can celebrate together with the hostages very soon.
Yes. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This has been Jewish Life. My name is Stewart Ain. Have a good one.